Hey, this is Chris Thile. I play the mandolin. So if you don't play the mandolin, now is probably a good time to stop watching, unless you play an instrument that's also a plucked instrument, in which case this could be useful. So what I'd love to talk about is actually just the pick hold. And there are lots of theories on how best to hold a pick, and then a lot of people think that it's fairly subjective. It matters more what makes you comfortable. I'm a little bit more towards the there's a right way to hold the pick camp, though not all the way, because certainly one's anatomy affects things, which is why I think it's a good idea, as far as holding a pick is concerned, to actually first just hold out your arm and let gravity do its thing with it. Let it droop and let your hand just sort of relax, completely relax. Now my hand actually sort of relaxes into a pick hold at this point, which is, I guess, useful, but it alarms, masseuses, for instance. And then what you do, hold your hand out and then just insert the pick between your thumb and forefinger. So hold it out, insert pick, and then just hold it so that basically I almost feel like I'm doing a parody of a lesson right now. But I'll get over it. So hold out your hand as loosely as possible, insert the pick, that's your pick hold. Change as little as you can from that point to stabilize the pick. And then, so now that you've got the pick in between your thumb and forefinger, like so, then you apply it to the strings. Again, trying to change your anatomy as little as possible. So you think about how you would, so I'm standing right now, how you would stand normally, and then manipulate your body as little as possible to get it into a place where you can actually get some sound out of the string. And then for your downstroke, you always have to think about supporting the pick, getting the pick through both strings on the mandolin. A common mistake for beginning mandolin players is they're kind of satisfied to just get through one of the strings. You know, how the thing has courses of strings, 8 strings. So you get through, make sure you get through both strings, and you have to get through them quickly, obviously, or else you have that sound. So when you go through the string, it's important to make sure that you're leaving all parts of your whole right side basically needs to be available for movement, from this first knuckle here all the way to your shoulder. That your shoulder can actually help, get your hand into position. If you're locking any one part of your whole entire arm, including your shoulder, then that part of your arm isn't available for motion, and it should all be available. I think part of the reason that so many people have physical difficulties who play plucked instruments are because they're locking some part of their arm, or they're focusing too much on say making sure that their wrist is loose. So then the wrist might be fine, but the elbow is locked, and that's just not a sustainable physical position. So that's the downstroke. Think about how the thumb is essentially driving it, and that the forefinger is essentially keeping it from falling out of your hands. And then the whole thing switches. That a lot of times I see people play, and it's almost as if you watch their hands, and it's almost as if they're because the downstroke is the first thing you learn, and because it goes with gravity and it's more natural, people often look scared, just physically speaking, on their upstroke. And for the vast majority of players are less comfortable with their upstroke. Like a backhand in tennis, for instance. I mean, the forehand is almost always the stronger side. The backhand's just not quite as natural. So it is with the downstroke and the upstroke. The upstroke goes against gravity, and it's using, the forefinger is powering it, which is not as strong as the thumb, which is one of the reasons that I advocate against going like this with your pick hold, because then there's nothing, the thumb is so much stronger than the first finger, and this will exacerbate the issue, because then the first finger doesn't have any support. It's matched up against the thumb, and it'll lose that battle every time. So I advocate, again, when you hold your hand out, get a little bit from, particularly the middle finger, I think kind of anatomically speaking is well suited to give the forefinger a little support on the upstroke. So you go back up against the string, forefinger certainly leading the charge, but the rest of these fingers can kind of help give support there. And then this is very important, the thumb now is in the supportive role. The thumb is what's keeping the pick from sliding out of your hand. And usually, I see lots and lots of mandolin players. It's almost as if they're trying to drag the pick back up with their thumb, which is obviously impossible. But that's like the physical look of the thing, and it creates an enormous amount of tension that's not creating any sound, except for maybe sort of a general tightness. So those are a couple things to think about with your right hand. Left hand position, the main thing is to make sure that all fingers are ready for action. I see so many players they're oriented so far towards their first two fingers, and those are absolutely the money fingers. These are the you can do a lot with just these two. But make sure that your hand is oriented in such a way that it doesn't prohibit the ring and pinky fingers from doing their share of the work. Ideally, you would even practice things with just these two fingers to get them, a little bit more prepared. A nice curl, again, you don't want to limit any motion over here. You don't want to hold your wrist real tense in an effort to get a nice curl, and then you kind of hold this hand out, much the same way that we did this, and then insert the pick. You hold this hand out and insert the neck of the mandolin. Now you see that my fingers are kind of curled. A common mistake is people not getting a whole lot of bend with their fingers, kind of coming at it like that. Again, what that's doing, of course, is limiting the motion that you can get with these knuckles here. So nice. You want to have it. I mean, it's okay to orient a little bit towards the first and second fingers, because they are naturally stronger. But again, you want to make sure that you're not going like this too much, because then all of a sudden your ring and pinky fingers are having to reach way over. Another thing I see a lot is these fingers way up here when people play. This is like, and all of a sudden if you have to use your pinky, look at the distance it has to travel to go and fret the string. So you got to keep it at the ready. So, playing closed scales helps. Position the finger so that it's ready to go. And then the other thing is that the pinky's tendency is to want to fly up after it's applied, like that. But then all of a sudden, of course, it's not ready to play. So you have to really guard against it going up. Sometimes it's helpful to have a friend hold that side of your hand, or just put their hand right above it so that it actually can't go anywhere. You get used to just how that feels. And then another thing to think about is that the thumb helps. Again, the thumbs are so strong. You don't want it just sitting back here resting. I mean, it can help squeeze, and so that actually fretting a note becomes an act of sort of squeezing a little bit, so that the thumb actually applies a little bit of pressure helps out, helps, you know, alleviate some of the tension. But then again, the key thing is to make sure that the squeeze after you're done, that you know, try and sort of think about just keeping your hand relaxed, which will help you shift. I mean, if you're squeezing and you keep your squeeze, all of a sudden you're anchored to a position, and you need to be able to, you know, get up here. And make sure that you're mobile. So there you go.